Kick off with such an interesting story. Teachers are going to be trained to spot the signs of misogyny in boys. This is a new government strategy to tackle violence against women. Nick, can you put some flesh on the bones for this for us?
Certainly can. I was speaking with Jess Phillips, who was the relevant minister earlier today. Let's give you an idea of the scale of the problem. There are 10 million, or there were 10 million reported offences of violence against women and girls in the last full calendar year. The government says it is determined to halve this. How? Well, it's a pilot scheme, and let me get this right, £20 million is a vast amount of money. But in terms of the problem that's faced and the number of children who need educating, is £20 million enough? The minister said yes. And yes, because it is a small pilot, and if it works, then it will be rolled out nationwide. So then I asked, how will it work? It will work if we halve the number of offences, and this is what will happen. And it could be boys, I should say, boys as young as 11. The minister has been shocked when she has visited schools and she has seen boys as young as 11 effectively showing each other violent porn, that sort of porn. So not the sort of pictures that maybe I grew up with or whatever, but violent. And that is what they want to tackle. That then leads into this sense of misogyny. That then leads, as the minister says, into acts of violence, even in some instances, acts of the ultimate violence and even murder. That is what they're determined to tackle. And that's why it's going to start and roll out in the new year.
How was she when she was on the show? Are you impressed?
She's across her brief. I would say that, again, I don't want to sound bad, but £20 million for the scale of the problem, I don't know if she's got enough money there. And also, they haven't quite worked out. They'll have these special classes, as they call them, or sessions. And they haven't yet worked out whether that will be done by existing teachers or whether they need to get into specialists. So the idea works. She's across it. But I do think we need to see it in operation to iron out what will undoubtedly be a few flaws, as there are with many plans.
Yeah. Ashley, what's your take?
I really welcome this. I think, obviously, it's not the only answer to tackle misogyny, but for so long we have sort of accepted that misogyny is just something that we should have to not only live with, but we teach girls how to protect themselves from men and boys, as opposed to teaching boys, because it starts when you're young, really, on how to not objectify women or how not to harm them. And just to kind of explain the backdrop, like a woman is killed in the UK by a man every 3 days. So this isn't a case of like bad apples. We know that domestic abuse is still one of the biggest threats to women. Women and girls still scared to walk home alone at night, carrying keys between their hands. I feel like we've all been kind of taught somehow to do that since we were very young.
The responsibility's always been shifted onto the women somehow.
Exactly.
To stay safe, don't walk alone at dark.
Wear certain clothes, which we know doesn't actually keep us safe at all, but it puts the onus on us to keep ourselves safe. But what we're seeing now is obviously the rise of what we call the manosphere, which is this extremely misogynistic incel culture, the likes of Andrew Tate, and currently 4 out of 10 young men hold a positive view of sexist commentators such as Andrew Tate. So this is a really serious problem, and so I'm really pleased that for once, not only are we recognising we need to do something, but we're equipping teachers with tools to be able to recognise it and to challenge it, because I know from speaking to a few different teachers, they have seen an impact since the likes of Andrew Tate have kind of come into prominence, but they don't know how to tackle it. But I think the really important thing is that obviously this is just one small part of it. Teachers can't do it alone, and it's also not just on teachers, it's on parents, it's on social media platforms.
It's a positive male role model at home.
Government policy, and I did some work with Sadiq Khan, because he's rolled out across a few primary schools in London a similar platform, but it's very age appropriate. So I think for anyone who is concerned, I just want to be clear that this is not about demonising boys. It's not about, you know, treating them like criminals or like sexist children. It's just about prevention, and it's about education, and it's about spotting early warning signs, because misogyny isn't something that is innate, it's something that's learned, so it needs to be unlearned. And obviously I have a son and I have a daughter, and I hate the thought that my son might adopt sexist attitudes, but also that at some stage my daughter is going to learn that people think that she is less than or not capable than, or having to police her outfits and what she wears. So I really welcome this, and I hope everyone really welcomes it, and I'll be interested to see how it goes.
Do you think it's something that teachers can do on their own, or do you think it's going to take specialist people coming into school?
Well, I think teachers will be confronted with it, whether they like it or not, every day. And I know there was reports that actually lots of female teachers were saying that a lot of these boys were no longer respecting them. And ultimately, they're in the classrooms day in, day out. So even if it ends up being like an almost external lesson with an external teacher, they still need to know how to spot the signs and have the confidence to be able to tackle it.
Yes.
So I think, of course, it's going to be beneficial for teachers, but I think teachers will also be worrying that this is yet another thing that we're putting on them.
So much pressure
You
on them.
probably spend more time with Gen Z men in the documentaries you do. And
I just wonder how that sentence is going to end, if I'm honest.
So, but in all seriousness, have you seen attitudes change, or have you seen, like, in a good way? I mean, for the last couple of years,
like,
you see a dull shift.
Yeah, I think we discuss it on this show regularly. I think you see two sides of this. My brother's Gen Z, and I see his attitudes towards women and his friends, and it's very different in a positive way to what I grew up with at school. And the misogyny and the playful banter that just went ignored at school, when I think back, was really problematic. And we were taught just to kind of ignore it, brush it off. And I think back to some of those things, they definitely wouldn't fly now. And I think most groups of young men, Gen Z, would call out that behaviour. However, like Ashley said, we do have a group of analised young men who are consuming, content that is very misogynistic and hateful towards women. So I think there is quite a big split.
Yeah.
And also a reminder that I can't remember if it's a third or a quarter of young boys think that feminism has gone too far. So there is obviously this idea that our equality is somehow a threat to them.
Yes.
So I think it is a bit worrying.
Can I have a last word on this, Dermot? Just something that you picked up on, actually, and which my callers were saying. And I don't have children of primary school age anymore, but a lot of callers said part of the problem, and you touched on this, is a positive role model, because unfortunately some of these children might not have a dad around, might not have an uncle or a brother, and there are not a lot of men who go into primary school teachers. What my listeners were saying, I say again, I don't know, I don't have school. In fact, Ashley, you can probably speak better to that. Is there a good number of men teaching your children in primary school, or is this an issue that needs to be examined, as sort of Dermot alluded?
Yeah. Look, I think it's important to have, doesn't have to be a father, but it's important to have a male role model, for any young man especially. I just think, because I think men, I don't know, you tell me. I mean, you're with a great guy. You must be heartened by the fact that he can teach your son the right way of being.
And also, like, some amazing male teachers at Alfie's school, and I think, of course, that makes a difference. And to be fair, at my daughter's nursery, and that is absolutely amazing. I suppose the problem is that because sexism and misogyny is so normalised, that a lot of banter we kind of accept as normal. So actually, I think it's down to all of us to stop normalising certain behaviours and certain languages.
Absolutely. OK, up next, England's Children's Commissioner, Dame Rachel de Souza, is urging parents to have a phone-free Christmas dinner this year, as it's revealed nearly half of parents plan to allow phones at the table. What's your take on that, Ashley?
Do you know what? I might surprise you here, but I think we don't know why people are on their phones. And actually, often, like, if Tommy and I ever go out for dinner, which is rarely, but maybe to catch up with a friend or maybe to catch up with a family member, we will give our kids an iPad or a phone, because if we don't, we won't be able to catch up with those people. Yeah. And so I think it's very easy to judge. Of course, in an ideal world, people shouldn't be on phones. And I think, it's like do as I say, not as I do. So if as parents we're telling our kids, especially older kids and teenagers, mine are a little bit younger, you can't be on your phone, but then we're scrolling, then, of course, we should all be making efforts to lead by example. However, our phones are also tools for our work and also for a lot of, the domestic and emotional labour at home. So, you might be on your phone because you're trying to arrange when your family are going to come around on Boxing Day, or you're doing the online shop for the following week, or you're maybe self-employed and trying to catch up on some work. So I think we have to be very careful at making blanket statements. And I think often there is a lot of judgment in general, not just at Christmas, about, especially if you see a young mum on a phone and she's pushing a pram and people are like, oh, she should be with her child. But she might have been with her child the entire day, and that's her only point. Yeah. So I think, yes, we should, at Christmas, be together, but...
You guys have kids, I don't, so I'm going to be... When I have children, they will be getting iPads. But do you think it's worrying that we need our kids to have devices in order for them not to interrupt us? Because I think when we was growing up, we didn't have that, and I wouldn't have interrupted my parents at the table. We just had a colouring book, and
we had Game Boys and stuff, so sometimes...
I don't know if I would have been allowed to take a Game Boy to a restaurant.
No. Nick, what's your take?
I had a hoop and a stick. That's all I had when I was growing up. No, Olivia, to your point, I mean, they've surveyed 2,000 adults, and nearly 4 in 10 think smartphones have disrupted their festive season in a certain way. Let's get context into this. If you've got mum and dad and 3 children and the grandparents have come over and uncle and aunt have come over and you've got 15 people around the Christmas table, I don't think it's too much to ask the younger ones, the children, to switch off their mobile phones. I really don't, Olivia. To Ashley's point, if you're waiting for a call from your auntie who's in Australia or whatever it might be, or your best friend who's in the United States, you're going to keep an eye on the phone because you want the warmth of the meeting and the greeting and the festive season. So I think context is everything. If it's the one meal where the children should be talking to their grandparents, and you can learn so much from your grandparents, I speak as someone, unfortunately, I don't ever see them again. They were a font of wisdom. Then the children should, and it's healthy for everyone to interact. Context is everything, Olivia, I'd say.
Yeah.
Agreed. I mean, I'm so guilty of saying to Brad, I just need to reply to this work, email or text. Next thing I know, I'm scrolling Instagram. It's like a default. Yeah. You open the phone, and the next thing you know, you kind of doom scroll.
Yeah. All right, move on. The stress of Christmas, making a quarter of Brits want to cancel. You can't really cancel Christmas.
My dad tries every year.
The stress of hosting Christmas. 1 in 5 people, apparently, or a quarter of people want to cancel their Christmas celebrations because of the stress. A tenth of respondents to this poll said they fear the guests' differing political views will make for a mindful...
scary, though.
Don't be talking politics on Christmas Day. What's the matter
No
with
politics,
you?
no religion, no money talk.
Yeah. Do we get stressed by Christmas? Nick, surely not. Not you.
Well, that's why I can't invite Ashley around for Christmas. This is the real reason, because, you know, we just won't get around. No, I think I told you when I saw you in the studios the other day, we've done it rather differently this year because my 2 sons are elsewhere with relatives and whatever else, and my ex, and that's absolutely right. So we've actually already sort of done half of our family Christmas a couple of weekends ago. And it kind of works, you know, because there's not that massive pressure. Yeah. I was able to spend time with my grandchildren. Quite rightly, they all go and spend time with their grandmother, my ex, and that's great, and it should be like that. So I think when you get in those kind of families, actually the stress, it should be worse, but if you navigate round and you speak to the kids and you say, why don't you come and see us on Saturday and see your mother on the day, it all works. Yeah. It all works.
I suppose there's this pressure for Christmas to look like a Hallmark movie, isn't it? And if actually you don't have, like, perfect family dynamics, or maybe your relationship's strained, or whatever the reason might be, I think it is really important to reimagine what Christmas could look like, because you don't have to spend all day in the kitchen cooking if that doesn't make you happy. And some of it says, you know, frustrated by lazy teenagers who refuse to help. I think you have to be just so strong with boundaries and do what works for you. And also, obviously, I don't have teenagers yet, but I will not be slaving after them at Christmas. So I think, it's just... Yeah, you're like, famous last words.
The chortle of experience, I call that.
Exactly.
That's what you think. Thoughts on that?
Christmas is a pretty stressful time.
Who has more of the stress, you or wife?
Good question.
Because I was thinking the 31%, I wonder how many of them are men or women.
I think it depends on
the roles in the house.
In the house, yeah.
Probably in my house, Brad would be more stressed.
I just want to stay on this earth long enough to see Ashley tell her teenage children that they've got to peel the potatoes. I just want to see that on one of your reels on Christmas Day, because that is going to go really well.
I'll be very impressed if I'm peeling potatoes at all.
Full stop.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you so much for visiting our This Morning YouTube channel. We upload new content every single day, so go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you in the morning.